A brutal escalation of conflict has plunged Ukraine into its bloodiest 24 hours. As Russia claims devastating military gains, Russian Defense Ministry claims that over 1,000 Ukrainian troops were killed, and it has now handed over the dead bodies of about 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers to Kiev. Our next story takes a closer look at the war, which is escalating by the hour.
The battlefield is ablaze, a storm of steel and fire. Russian forces press their offensive, claiming a staggering victory in what Moscow describes as the most lethal day for Ukrainian troops since the conflict began. In a single 24-hour charge, Moscow says Kyiv lost 1,200 soldiers, the fiercest blow in recent memory. An independent verification remains impossible in the fog of war. On the same day, Russia handed over to Ukraine the bodies of 1,000 soldiers. This is part of an agreement reached at peace talks last month. Moscow says Ukraine handed over 19 killed Russian soldiers. On the front lines, the situation is dire for Ukraine. The thunder of multiple rocket launchers brings death and destruction. Ukrainian troops valiantly try to hold their posts and launch precision strikes to destroy the incoming Russian tanks. Kharkiv and Sumy are the focal points of the fighting. Russian forces have been hammering these locations mercilessly. In a significant strategic move, Russia asserts it has captured new areas in Donetsk, Kharkiv region and the southern Zaporizhzhia region. The Russian military accelerated its advances for a third consecutive month in June. Its territorial gains for that month were the biggest since November last year. Ukraine is anxiously waiting for the delivery of the promised weaponry. The NATO military leadership says it is actively working with Germany to send Patriot missile defense systems to Ukraine. The weapons are being delivered under a novel plan where European nations would be paying to the US, which would be selling these weapons. But now France, Italy and the Czech Republic have rejected funding weapon supplies, citing concerns over the economic toll on their populations. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, your everyday browser extension, a tool you rely on for convenience, could be secretly spying on you. Researchers just uncovered a massive campaign affecting over 2 million users. And the most alarming part, if you ask, these harmful extensions were hiding in plain sight on the official Chrome and Edge stores. 18 browser extensions that appeared legitimate because of its strong reviews, verification badges, and having been active for years have now been exposed for secretly tracking users' online behavior. Researchers say that many of these extensions initially offered helpful features like weather updates, volume boosting, and dark mode, but they were in fact sleeper agents. These extensions functioned normally for years. However, they became harmful when cybercriminals later added malicious code through updates. This often happens when an extension has been in a web store for a long time, making it easier for attackers to slip in malicious updates without raising suspicion. Once these sleeper agents are activated, the extensions begin deploying a browser hijacking mechanism that triggers every time you navigate to a new page. Every time you visit a new web page, the malicious extension quietly activates. It captures the site's URL, adds a unique user ID, and sends this information to a remote command server. Following instructions from the server, the extension silently hijacks your browser, redirecting you to phishing pages, fake websites, or malware-filled traps. According to a report by Bleeping Computer, a tech news website, around 1.7 million people ended up installing these malicious extensions from the Chrome Web Store. Meanwhile, a total of 2.3 million users were affected across Chrome and Microsoft Edge. Imagine knowing your child could inherit a deadly genetic disease and there was nothing you could do to stop it. Well, now there's hope. For the first time, 8 children in the United Kingdom have been saved from such diseases, thanks to a pioneering 3-person IVF technique. Scientists at Newcastle University say that this breakthrough stops incurable, often fatal disorders from being passed on. And here's how it works. Some mothers carry faulty mitochondrial genes. These genes sit inside the cell's energy factories, and when they are damaged, they can cause serious diseases affecting the brain, heart, muscles, liver, and even kidneys. Doctors first fertilize the mother's egg with the father's sperm. They then remove the nuclei which carry the baby's DNA from both the parents. This is then transferred into a healthy donor egg, which has had its own nucleus removed, but it keeps its healthy mitochondria. The result? A baby with mum and dad's DNA plus healthy mitochondria from the donor. This prevents dangerous mutations from being passed on. Of the 8 children born this way in the United Kingdom, 1 is now 2 years old, 2 are between 1 and 2, and 5 are infants. All were born healthy, with no or very low levels of mutations. Doctors say that they are developing normally. And why is this important? Because faulty mitochondria can cause incurable diseases. This technique could reduce mutations by up to 100%. Experts are calling this a huge milestone because it took decades of research, ethical debates around this technique, and new laws to make it possible. In 2015, the United Kingdom became the first country to legalize mitochondrial donation treatments. In the US, for comparison, this remains effectively banned under laws against genetic modifications. For families with these deadly mutations, this breakthrough offers something priceless: hope for a healthy future generation. And for the scientists, they say that this is just the beginning. Europe's biggest missile maker is profiting from bombs that are killing children in Gaza. Yes, that's what it boils down to right now. Whether or not some people like it to put it that way or not. An explosive investigation by British daily The Guardian reveals how parts made in Europe end up in weapons raining down on Palestinian families in Gaza. But the question is, how exactly are European companies tied to this devastation? Who is making money off Gaza's bloodshed? And why aren't heads rolling in Europe? Those are our big questions tonight. The investigation names Europe's biggest missile manufacturer, MBDA. The company makes key parts for bombs used by Israel in airstrikes that have killed hundreds of civilians, including women and children in Gaza. It traced the supply chain of the GBU-39 bombs, which uses wings manufactured at an MBDA-owned factory in Alabama, USA. Now, these wings we're talking about, it unfolds after launch, guiding the bomb precisely to its target. Profits from this U.S. arm of the company reportedly flow back to MBDA offices in the UK and then to its headquarters in France. Last year, MBDA, it rather paid a lot of money to other countries because of the drones that is being used against Europe. So the company makes key parts for bombs, which is eventually used by Israel in airstrikes that have killed hundreds of civilians, including children, in Gaza. The Guardian report verified 24 airstrikes using the GBU-39, each killing civilians, including children. In one attack this May, a bomb tore through a school sheltering families in Gaza City, killing 36 people. Half of them were children. Both Amnesty International and the UN have flagged such attacks as potential war crimes, saying that no warnings were given before strikes on schools or tent camps. In September last year, UK's Foreign Minister David Lammy also suspended some weapons export licenses to Israel, citing a clear risk of serious violations of international law. But rights groups say that these measures were too little, too late, and it filled with loopholes. Remember, under international humanitarian law, attacks on civilian infrastructure like schools and hospitals are strictly prohibited. Armies are required to minimize harm to civilians, and failing to do so amounts to war crimes. Quite clearly, all these rules are being violated almost daily. These bombs, the GBU-39s, are small by military standards, under 250 pounds each. They're designed to destroy 1 or 2 floors while leaving the rest of the building standing. The US State Department has reportedly encouraged their use as an alternative to heavier bombs that flatten entire blocks. But inside enclosed shelters, like in this case of the densely populated camps in Gaza, they create lethal fireballs. The first attack reportedly took place in November last year. That's when these bombs hit the densely populated Burej refugee camp. Multiple buildings collapsed. 9 children died instantly, but the death toll kept rising as bodies were pulled from the rubble. Then, in May this year, the bombs were used in one of the deadliest attacks of the war when Israeli jets struck the Kuwaiti peace camp 1 in Rafah, igniting fires that spread rapidly through rows of tents. Amnesty International reported horrific scenes, a woman and a toddler decapitated by bomb fragments. That attack had killed 45 people and wounded 249. Israel claimed it was targeting a Hamas compound and said a secondary explosion from munitions stored nearby may have caused the fire. Amnesty, however, accused Israel of failing to distinguish between civilians and military goals, calling for war crimes investigations. Now, weapons experts say that the GBU-39s are almost always sold with MBDA's patented diamond-back wings, which guide them precisely to their targets. That means that MBDA is the sole known supplier of these wings on these bombs. And so, despite Britain's ban on some arms exports, MBDA's subsidiary in Alabama, US, it continues operating unaffected. Profit from these US sales flow back to MBDA offices in UK and then to its European owners. In 2024 alone, MBDA's revenues hit $5.4 billion. Critics argue that while the UK has sanctioned Russia's arms industry, it's taken a lighter touch approach when it comes to Israel. So what we see here essentially is that MBDA is profiting from Israel's bombing. MBDA insists it complies with all national and international laws, and its code of ethics states it is committed to protecting human rights and safety. But as the war drags on, campaigners say words are meaningless without action. And as a result, Europe's missile profits remain stained with the blood of Gaza's children.